transfer of training, right? So in our class today, we shall discuss transfer of training. So transfer of training plays very, very crucial role in training and development. We need to understand why transfer of training is so vital for an organization. Because, you know, the whole training and development has been, developed scientifically and systematically to achieve two things. One is efficiency and the other is effectiveness. Efficiency and effectiveness in performance, right? So the basic objective of training and development, if you look at the objective of training and development, it is actually to systematically achieve efficiency and effectiveness in performance. Now, how can we judge the efficiency and effectiveness at performance? We can judge this only by evaluating change in performance post training, isn't it? Post training. Moreover, we also know lot of money, lot of cost and time, resources are involved in training program. So therefore, transfer of training is a crucial aspect which ensures the, so transfer of training actually ensures your implementation and application of what is learned into the training program, right? I'm repeating again. So when we talk of transfer of training, this is most vital part because it connects us with the purpose of training, why we are giving training program. The main answer is so that efficiency and effectiveness during the performance of an individual employee or a team or of the organization can be raised. Okay, so post training your performance will improve, which is ensured by some factors which influence the transfer of training. And transfer of training moreover ensures the implementation and application of whatever KSAs has been carried out or explained during the process of training. Hence we need to evaluate training program to find out whether the whatever has been taught in the training is transferred or not. So this evaluation of training we will be discussing in the last part of the training and development course, because as per the sequential or systematic arrangement of training and development process, evaluation comes at the end. But today we will discuss what are the various factors which influence the transfer of training. You need to take care of these factors in the beginning. Okay, once you have given training program, then you think about the factors and try to ensure its transfer, then you may not succeed. So prior to designing a training program, prior to conducting a training program, it is important for an HR person or a training and development organizer that he or she should look into the various factors which influence training program. So that is the reason why we will look into these factors. Another important point to discuss, or another issue why this is so vital for any organization, is because when we try to look at the success of training and development program, okay, or utilization aspect of training and development program. If we want to judge effectiveness and efficiency of training and development program, or we want a return on investment. Okay, return on investment. All these four things will be answered if your transfer of training is successfully done. That means when the employee post training, when the employee goes back to the workplace, he or she utilizes the learnings at the workplace, and this only ensures or answers the or gives you feedback on the training and development program. So therefore, it's very vital that in the beginning you try to understand its importance. So in this, let us today therefore focus on what are the various factors which influence training and development or transfer of training at the particular workplace. So the first important aspect is, as you see here, is your work environment, right? Work environment refers to your workplace. When you talk about work environment, many times another word is also replaced, that is known as your work context, right? It is known as work context. Instead of work environment, you may get work context also. So what does work environment refer to? It refers to the resources available to your workplace, the facilities available at your workplace, right? So you need to ensure before the training program, suppose you are designing a training program and you want to make the trainees learn a particular language, right? A particular computer language, a particular software you want them to learn to use. But when they go back, see why, with what objective you are making them learn, so that when they go back, they use it, right? But when they go back to their workplace, suppose the organization does not provide them the software, or suppose they don't have, access to software or devices to run those software, then what is the takeaway from, what sense does the training actually make for these trainees? Because they may have gained some knowledge, but in our adult learning and those Kolb's cycle, as well as the other theories we discussed in our previous classes, we saw that learning is effective only when it gets converted to experience. Remember the thing we discussed called experience? Experience comes when we do things. Remember Kolb's cycle, when we do things. So it's not just that you provide some knowledge and some hands-on thing to the employee, but when they return to the workplace, if they don't have the software, they don't have access to devices, again the learning will, whatever knowledge, little bit of knowledge and experience they have acquired, that will vanish away. So your supportive work environment is very, very important, essential feature to ensure the transfer of training. The other two things are, one is your training characteristics. Send a person or select a person for training, you need to ensure the trainee has a desire to learn, desire to learn, interest, and is motivated to learn. If the individual is not motivated to learn, then however best of training you may provide, it may not succeed. Salary or compensation is purely on base of your performance. So if you do not attentively attend the training programs, you do not come back to the workplace and implement that, then definitely your performance goes down and your perks go down. Third one is, of course, training design, where your role as a training and development manager or as an HR manager plays very important role, because you are the person who will be designing the training program. When I say we will do that in our probably third unit, how we will design training program, where you will have to look into a lot of the characteristics of the organization as well as align it with the requirement of trainee and the trainee's characteristics. So in training characteristics, what things come? Motivation and ability. Both are required, remember. Okay, we discussed in adult learning in detail also that unless an individual is highly motivated to perform learning, one will not learn. So if you are not motivated enough for learning, it's difficult. Again, when we look at what we have discussed in motivation in OB classes, motivation is of two types, right? One is intrinsic and the other is extrinsic. So we have two kinds of motivation here. One is intrinsic, one is extrinsic. Always in training program, try to focus more on intrinsic motivation, because extrinsic motivation increases the cost of training, right? Remember this as an HR person. Extrinsic motivation increases cost of training, and past research have shown that it does not necessarily lead to change in KSA or application of learning after coming back to work. But intrinsic one is very effective if you know, the candidate or the trainee or the employee in the organization is intrinsically motivated to carry out the training, to attend the training program, then he or she may actually be very effective and work well. What are the ways and means, you know, that comes to your mind so that you can intrinsically train the candidate, intrinsically motivate the candidate? What are the various ways which will lead to intrinsic motivation? Okay, the first and foremost is career advancement opportunities. Career advancement opportunity, in your Herzberg's theory you must have studied, there are two kind of motivators. One is hygiene factors, the other one is motivators. So career advancement or an opportunity to grow in your organization, growth, right? These are some factors which actually lead to intrinsic motivation. So what strategy as an HR person you should develop when you are selecting employees for training program? What you should do as an HR person is you go through their background inventory. So go through the inventory, you can check that what are the various, you know, career options the individual is interested in, and then you can arrange a counseling session with the individual. Once you have a counseling session where the HR person talks about the purpose and usefulness of the training program for the employee and how attending the particular training program can result into career advancement of the employee, then automatically the particular individual who has some career aspirations will actually put in effort towards learning and implementation of the learning coming back to place. Okay, so therefore, remember as an HR person, when you face with such situations, always try to focus on developing intrinsic motivation, because it has been observed that extrinsic motivation in terms of incentive, in terms of money or any gift in kind is very momentary. You know, for the particular time point, the person may attend the training program and show his or her enthusiasm, but actually it does not, you know, result in improvement in his or her performance. Therefore, the approach of improving or working on developing intrinsic motivators will be very beneficial for you in towards making your training and development activities successful, right? The second one is ability. Now, this active participation during the training program is very important, because without active participation, we saw in Kolb's model, without this, learning can never be useful, right? Again, this whole diagram also serves as an answer to what? It serves as an answer to, you know, what is performance? Performance is a function of motivation and ability. So when both of these things are merged well together, then only the chances of transfer of training at workplace is high. So I hope you are clear with this, right? Next, let me move to the other one, that is training design. Training design is what? How you actually design the training program in terms of the chronology of activities, in terms of whether the activities are experimental or, you know, experiential, or they are theory based, what training methods you are using. We will be discussing this in more detail in your third unit of the syllabus. Then so that you create a proper learning environment. Is various theories of transfer of learning. The first theory says that the elements should be identical. Now, whenever you are sending a person in training program, please see that whatever training he or she is taking on whatever device, whatever instrument, whatever technical training or whatever activity, this situation should be here. It may be situation, it may be technology, anything. So technology and situations should be very similar to workplace. Identical elements between what is there in the training and what is there in the workplace should be, you know, in coherence with each other. Otherwise, your training will not be successful. Second one is stimulus generation. You know, this Skinner, yesterday we discussed, Skinner talked about stimulus, right? Stimulus is something in the external environment. So your in external environment, what the availability of things should be such which will actually motivate you to attend the training program, actively participate in it, and come back and implement it. The stimulus may be, again I am repeating, it may be anything externally you are providing to an individual, maybe in terms of incentives, it may be in terms of career aspirations of an individual, it may be in terms of an opportunity to go abroad, etc. Right? So there has to be some stimulus which will make the trainee put in effort into the learning process and transfer of learning. If there is no stimulus, then why a person will actually take the pain of, you know, actively participating in it and utilizing it at the workplace? No fixed answer to any for this question called stimulus. You have to look at the trainee's profile. You have to look at the particular organization's conditions. You need to look at various other factors in the particular organization and the trainees, so that you can actually you can actually pinpointedly say that this can work as a stimulus for these kind of people. Again, in same organization, organization for different categories of people, you know, people are as per rank and order, people are arranged in the hierarchy. As per departments, they are again have an arrangement or structure. So depending on the structure and position of the employee in the organization, the stimulus will vary. What can be very attractive for a person who is working on the shop floor may not be very attractive for a person who is in the managerial position. Now, the third one, let us look at cognitive theory. And this is here where the application of your theories come into. You know, many times students ask, why do we need to read theories? Because how does it help in our workplace? So the theories, remember the Kolb cycle, we discussed adult learning, we discussed social cognitive theory. All those theories actually give you an idea that what kind of environment you should create in the training process, which will actually enhance storage and recall the training program. Recall means when they go back, they can practice those learnings in their workplace,